Wings of Fire 1. The Dragonette Prophecy. By 2T. Sutherland. To Jonah, my little big wings. Prologue. A dragon was trying to hide in the storm. Lightning flickered across the dark clouds. Hivator clutched his fragile cargo closer. If he could make it over the mountains, he'd be safe. He'd escape the sky dragon palace unseen, and the secret cave was so close. But the theft had not been as deftly as he thought, and eyes as black as obsidian were already tracking him from below. The enormous dragon on the mountain ledge had pale gold scales that radiated heat like a desert horizon. Her black eyes narrowed, watching the gleam of silver wings far up in the clouds. She flickered her tail, and behind her, 2 more dragons rose into the sky and dove into the heart of the storm. A piercing shriek echoed of the mountains as his talons seized the moon-pale ice dragon. "Bind his mouth," the waiting dragon ordered as the soldiers dropped Hivator on the slick, wet ledge in front of her. He was already inhaling, ready to attack. Quickly! One of the soldiers grabbed a chain from the pile of the smoldering coals. He drew it around the ice dragon's snout, clamping its jaws together with the sizzling smell of burning scales. Hivator let out a muffled scream. Too late. The sand dragon's fork-tongued slithers and out of her mouth. "You won't be using your freezing death breath on this ice wing." "He was carrying this, Queen Byrne," said one of the soldiers, handing her a dragon egg. Byrne squinted at the egg through the downpour. "This is not an ice wing egg," she hissed. "You stole this from the Skywing Palace." The ice wing stared back at her, hissing as them circled his snout where the hot chains met cold silver scales. "You thought you got away unnoticed, didn't you?" Byrne said. "My Skywing ally is not a fool. Queen Scarlet knows everything that happens in her kingdom. Her lookouts reported an ice-wing thief sneaking away, and I decided finding you might add some violence to my boring visit." Byrne held a large egg up to the light of the fire and turned slowly. Red gold shimmered below the pale smooth surface. "Yes, this is a sky egg about to hatch," Byrne mused. "Why will my sister send you to steal a Skywing dragonette? Blaze hates any dragon younger and prettier than she is." She thought for a moment as rain drummed on the ledge around them. "Alas, the brightest night is tomorrow." Her tail flicked up like a scorpion's, the poisonous barb inches from Hivator's eyes. "You're not a Blaze army, are you? One of those insipid underground peacemongers." "The towers of peace?" said one of the soldiers. "You mean they're real?" Byrne snorted. "A few worms crying over a little blood." Unwrapped his chains. He won't be able to freeze us until His scowls cooled down. The enormous sand dragon leaned closer as the soldier pulled his chains away. Tell me, Ice Dragon, do you really believe in the pompous old Nightwing prophecy? Haven't enough dragons died for your war? Snarled Jupiter, wrenching the pain in his jaws. All Pyria has suffered for the last 12 years. The prophecy says, I don't care. No prophecy decides what happens to me, Bern interrupted. I'm not letting a bunch of words or baby dragons choose when I die or I bow to. We can have peace when my sisters are dead, and I am queen of Sandwings. Her venomous tail dipped closer to the silver dragon. Rain pattered on Jupiter's scales. He glared up at her. The dragonets are coming, whether you like it or not. And they'll choose who the next Sandwing Queen should be. Really? Bern stepped back and turned the egg slowly between her talons. Her forked tongue swept in and out and smiled. So, Icewing, is this egg a part of your prophetic prophecy? Jupiter went still. Bern tapped lightly on the eggshell with the long talon. Hello, she called. Is there a dragonet of destiny in there, ready to come out at this big bad war? Leave it alone. Jupiter choked out. Tell me, Bern said, what becomes of your precious prophecy, and one of 5 dragonets is never hatched at all? You wouldn't, he said. The one would harm a dragon egg. His blue eyes were fixed desperately on her talons. No wings of sky to help the world, Bern said. What a sad, sad story. She began tossing the egg from one claw to the other. I guess that means that you should be very, very careful with this terribly important little oops. With the exaggerated lunge, Bern pretended the wet egg was slipping through her talons, and then she let it fall over side on the cliff in the rocky darkness below. No! Jupiter shrieked. He threw off the 2 soldiers and flung himself toward the edge. Bern slammed her massive claws down his neck. So much for destiny, she smirked. So much for your tragic little movement. You're a monster, the Icewing gasped, withering under the talons. The voice crackled with despair. We'll never give up. The dragonets will come and stop this war. Bern leaned to his ear. Even if they do, it'll be far too late for you. Her claws ripped through the silver dragon's wings, shredding them as Jupiter shrieked in agony. With swift movement, she stabbed her poisonous tail to the skull and flung the long silver body over the edge of the cliff. The ice dragon's screams cut off long before the echoes of his corpse slamming into the rocks below. The Sandwing turned their black eyes to the soldiers. Perfect, she said. That should be at last we hear about this stupid prophecy. She held out the talons so the rain could wash away the glistening dragon blood. Let's go find something else to kill. The 3 dragons spread their wings and lifted off into the dark clouds. Some time later, far below a large dragon, the color of rust crawled over the rocks to the broken body of the ice dragon. She nudged his tail aside and lifted a shard of eggshell from underneath it. Then swept it back to the labyrinth of chaos under the cliffs. Stone walls brushed against her wings. She breathed a plunge of flame into her way along the passage, deep into the mountain. I stand with the towns of peace, his voice in the shadows. Kestrel, is that you? We await the wings of fire, answered the red dragon. A blue-green ceiling emerged from a side cave, and she tossed the eggshell at his feet. Not that. It'll do as much good now, she snarled. Have a turret instead. The ceiling stared at the eggshell, but the skywing egg. Broken, she said. Gone. It's over, Webbs. It can't be, he said. Tomorrow is the brightest night. The 3 moons will all be full from the first time in a century. The dragonets of prophecy will have to hatch tomorrow. Well, one of them is already dead, Kestrel said. Rage flickered in her eyes. I knew I should have stolen the skywing egg myself. I know the skywing kingdom. They wouldn't have caught me a second time. Webbs grimaced, scratching one claw over the gills along his neck. Asha is dead too. Asha? A spurt of flame shot from Kestrel's nose. How? Caught in battle between the blaze and blisters. Forces are on the way here. She still made it without the red mudwing egg, but she died of her wounds soon after. So it's just you and me, and doomed to raise the little worms, Kestrel growled. For a prophecy that can never be fulfilled, let's break the cursed eggs now and be done with it. We'll be long gone before the talents of peace return to the dragonets. No, Webbs hissed. Keeping the dragons alive for the next 8 years is more important than anything. If you don't want to be part of that. All right, enough, Kestrel snapped. I'm the strongest dragon in the Towers of Peace. You need me. It doesn't matter how I feel of nasty little dragonets. She eyed the eggshell on the floor, rubbing her scarred palms together. Although I thought at least one of them would be a skywing. I'll find the 5th dragonet. Webbs pushed past her, scales crumpled, scraping it against rock. There's no way back to the Sky Kingdom, brainless, she said. They'll be guarding the hatchery closely now. Then I'll get an egg somewhere else, he said grimly. The rainwings don't even count their eggs. I could take one from the rainforest without anyone noticing. Of all the horrible ideas, Kestrel said with a shudder, rainwings record creatures. Nothing away skywings. We had to do something, Webb said. We hissed as the tail sent the eggshell scattering across the floor. In 8 years, the Towns of Peace will come looking for 5 dragonets. The prophecy says 5, and we're going to make it come true, whatever it takes. 6 years later. Chapter 1. Clay didn't think that he was the right dragon for a big heroic destiny. Oh, he wanted to be. He wanted to be the great mudwing savior of all the dragon world. glorious and brave. He wanted to do all of the wonderful things expected of him. He wanted to look at the world, figure out what was broken, and fix it. But he wasn't a natural hatched hero. He had no legendary qualities at all. He liked sleeping more than studying, and he kept losing chickens in caves during hunting practice because he was paying attention to his friends instead of watching for feathers. He was all right at fighting, but all right, he wasn't going to stop the war and save the dragon tribes. He needed to be extraordinary. He was the biggest dragon yet, so he was supposed to be the scary tough one. The minders wanted him to be terrifying dangerous. Clay felt about as dangerous as a cauliflower. Fight! His attacker howled, flinging his arm across the cavern. Clay crashed into the rock wall and scrambled up again, trying to spread his mud-colored wings for balance. Red talons raked at his face, and he ducked away. Come on, the red dragon snarled. Stop holding back. Find the killer inside you and let it go. I'm trying, Clay said. Maybe if we could stop and talk about it. She lunged for him again. Feinted to left. Roll right. Use your fire. Clay tried to duck under the wing to attack her from below, but of course he rolled the wrong way. One of the talons smashed him onto the ground, and he yelled with pain. Which left was that, useless? Kestrel bellowed in his ear. Are all mudwings this stupid, or are you just deaf? Well, if you keep that up, it will be soon, Clay thought. The skywing lifted her claws and wriggled her free. I don't know about the mudwings, he processed, licking his sore talons. Obviously, but perhaps he could try fighting without all the shouting at sea. He stopped, hearing the familiar hiss that came before one of Kestrel's fire attacks. He threw his wings over his head, tucked his long neck in, and rolled into the maze of stalagmites that stunted one corner of the cave. Flame blasted the rocks around it, sinking the tip of his tail. Coward, the older dragon bellowed. She smashed one of the rock columns into a shower of sharp black pebbles. Clay covered his eyes and almost immediately fell to the stamp down hard on his tail. Ow! He yelled. You said stomping tails were cheating. He seized the closest stalagmite between his claws and scrambled up on top of it. From perched near the roof, he glared down at his guardian. I'm your teacher, Kestrel snarled. Nothing I do is cheating. Get down here and fly like a skywing. But I'm not a skywing, Clay thought rebelliously. I'm a mudwing. I don't like setting things on fire or flapping around from circles bending at dragon necks. His teeth still ached from Kestrel's jewel hard scales. Can I fight one of the others? He asked. I'm much better at that. The other dragonets were his own size, nearly. And they didn't cheat. Well, most of the time. He actually liked fighting with them. Oh, yes? Which opponent would you prefer? The stunted Stanley or the lazy Rainwing, Kishore said, because I'm sure you could get to choose on the battlefield. Her tail glowed like embers as she lashed it back and forth. Glory's not lazy, Clay said loyally. She's just not built for fighting, that's all. Webster says that there's no much fighting about in the rainforest because the rainwings have all the food they want. He says that that's why they stayed out of the war so far, because none of the rival queens want rainwings in the armies anyway. He says, "Stop vampiring and get down here," Kishore roared. She reared up on her back's legs and flared her wings, so she suddenly looked 3 times bigger. With the help of an alarm, Clay tried to leap to the next stalagmite, but his wings unfurled too slowly, and he smacked into the other side of it instead. S'mores flew at his claws, scraped down the jagged rock. He let out another yowl of pain as Kishore snaked her head between the columns, seized his tail in her teeth, and yanked him out into the open. Her talons closed around his neck as she hissed it in the ear. "Where's the violent little monster I saw when you hatched? What's the dragon we need for prophecy?" "Gulp," Clay squawked, clapping at her grip. He could feel the strange burn scars on her palms scraping against his scales. This was how battle training with Kishore always ended, with the anxious and some more limping for days afterward. "Fight back," he thought. "Get mad. Do something." But although he was the biggest of the old dragoness, they were still a year away from being full grown, and Kishore tore over him. He tried to summon some helpful violent rage, but all he could think of was, "It'll be over soon, and then I can go have dinner." So not the most heroic train of thought. Suddenly, Kishore let a roar and dropped him, fired a blaster over Clay's head, and hit the floor with a thud. The red dragon whirled around behind her, painting definitely was a Syrian dragonette, Tsunami. A red gold scale was caught between her sharp white teeth, spat it out, and glared at the teacher. "Stop picking on Clay," Tsunami growled, "or I'll bite you again." Her deep blue scales shimmered like cobalt glass in the torchlight. The gills in her long neck were pulsing like they always did when she was angry. Kishore sat back and flickered her tail around to examine the bite marks. She bared her teeth at Tsunami. "Aren't you sweet protecting a dragon who tried to kill you while you were still an egg? But luckily, you big dragons were there to save our lives," Tsunami said. "And we sure appreciate it, because now we get to hear about it all the time." She marched around to stand between Clay and Kishore. Clay winced. He hated hearing the story. He didn't understand it. He never wanted to hurt the other dragonettes. So why I attacked the eggs during the hatching? Did you really have to kill a monster inside it somewhere? The other miners, Webbs and Dune, said he'd been ferocious when he hatched. They had thrown him in the river to protect the other eggs from him. Kesho wanted him to find that monster and use it when he fought. But he was afraid if he ever did, he would hate himself, and so would everyone else. Thinking about what he nearly done to his friends made him feel like all the fire had been snuck out of him. He particularly wanted to be a violent, angry monster. Even Kesho thought that would be an improvement. But maybe that was only the way to make the prophecy come true. Maybe the monster was his destiny. Alright, Kesho says dismissively. We're finished here anyway. I will mark another favorite in your scroll, muttering. She snorted a small flame into the air and swept out of the cave. Clay flopped it down on the floor as soon as the red tail had vanished from sight. It felt like every one of the scales was stinging from the burns. She's going to be mean to you during your training tomorrow, he said to Tsunami. Oh no, the seeming dragon aghast. I had never seen Kesho be mean before. That will be so unexpected and out of all characters. Oh, Clay groaned. Don't make me laugh. I think my ribs are broken. Your ribs are not broken, Tsunami said, poking him in the side of the nose. Dragon bones are almost as hard as diamonds. You're fine. Get up and jump into the river. No, Clay buried his hand under the wing. Too cold. Jump into the river. Was Tsunami's solution for everything. Bored, aching bones, dry scales, brain out severed, the history of war. Jump into the river. She shouted whenever the dragoness complained. She certainly did not care that she was the only one who could breathe underwater, or that the other dragon tribes hated getting wet. Clay didn't mind being wet, but he couldn't stand it being cold. An underwater river that flowed through the cave of Homa was always freezing. Get it, Tsunami ordered. She seized his tail between her front talons and started dragging him toward the river. You'll feel better. I will not, Clay shouted, calling as smooth as stone before. I'll feel colder. Stop it. Go anyway, arg. His process went up in a cloud of bubbles as Tsunami dumped him in the icy water. When he reciprocated, she was floating beside him, ducking her head and splashing water over her scales like beautiful overgrown fish. Clay felt like gawky brown blob next to her. He splashed into the shallows and lay down on some marine rock ledge with his head resting on the bank of the river. He wasn't admitted, but the burns and ache did feel bitter in the water. The current helped to wash away the smoky rock dust caught between his dry scales. Still too cold, thought. Clay scratched at the rock below him. Why couldn't there be such a little meadow down here? Kesho will be sorry one day. When I'm a queen of the sea winds, Tsunami said, swimming up and down in the narrow channel. I thought only a queen's daughter or sister could challenge you for a throne, Clay said. Tsunami swam so fast. He wished he had webs between his talons too, or gills, or a tail like hers, so powerful she could nearly empty the river with one big splash. Or maybe the Ceiling Queen is the mother and I'm a wasp princess, she said, liking the story. Everything the dragoness knew about the outside world came from the scrolls, picking up by the towns of peace. The fame was a missing princess, a legend about a runaway sea dragoness whose royal family tore up in the whole ocean looking for her. At the end, she found her way home. Her parents welcomed her with open wide wings and feasting in joy. Clay always skipped the adventures in the middle of the story. She just liked the last part, the happy moments and the father, and the feasting. The feasting sounded pretty great too. I wonder what my parents are like, he said. I wonder if any of your parents are still alive, Tsunami said. Clay didn't like to think about that. He knew dragons were dying in the war every day. Crystal and Labs brought back news of the body battles, scorched land, and burning piles of dragon bodies. But he had to believe his parents were still safe. Do you think that they ever miss us? Evidently. Tsunami flicked a spray of water and he moved with her tail. I bet mine were frantic while Webs stole my egg, just like in the story. And mine tore apart at the marshes, Clay said. They all imagine senses of their parents. Desperate searches ever since their young dragoness. Clay liked the idea that someone out there was looking for him, that someone missed him and wanted him back. Tsunami flipped on her back, gazing up at the stone roof with translucent green eyes, where the towers of peace knew what they were doing. She said bitterly, no one would ever find us down there. They listened to the river gurgle and the torches crackle for a moment. We won't be underground forever, Clay said, trying to make her feel better. I mean, the towns of Pisa want us to stop the war. They have to let us out sometime. He scratched behind his ear thoughtfully. Starfighter says it's only 2 more years. He only had to hold on that long. And then we can go home and eat as many cows as we want. First, we save the world, Tsunami said. And then we go home. Right, said Clay. How they were going to save the world was a little fuzzy. But everyone seemed to think they figured out when the time came. Clay pulled himself out of the river. His water-logged wings were heavy and drooping. He sprayed them in one of the torches, arching his neck and trying to get warm. Feeble waves of heat waved against his scales. Unless, Tsunami said. Clay lowered his head to look at her. Unless what? Unless we leave sooner, she said. She flipped over and pulled herself out of the water into a graceful motion. Leave? Clay echoed, startled. How? On your own? Why not? She said. If we can find a way out, why should we have to wait until another 2 years? I'm already to save the world now, aren't you? Clay wasn't sure he'd ever be ready to save the world. figured the town was a piece would let them what they had to do. Only the three guardian dragons, Cashel, Webster, and Dune, knew where the dragonets were hidden. But there was a whole network of towns out there getting ready for the prophecy. We can't stop the war by ourselves, he said. We wouldn't know where to start. So now we flapped our wings at him in expiration, showering him with cold droplets. We cannot stop the war on our own, he said. That's the whole point of the prophecy. Maybe in 2 years, Clay said. Maybe by then I'll have found my dragoner's side. Maybe then I'll be furious a fighter as Kesha wants me to be. Maybe sooner, she said stubbornly. Just think about it, all right? He shivered at his feet. All right, I'll think about it. At least that way we can stop arguing with her. Tsunami cocked his head. I hear dinner. The faint sound of dismayed mowing echoed in the tunnel behind him. She poked Clay cheerfully. Racing to the hall, she whirled and pounded her way, waiting for a response. The torches in the battle room seemed dimmer, and cold water was seeping into Clay's scales. He folded his wings and swept his tail through the debris of a smashed rock column. Tsunami was crazy. The fire dragonets weren't ready to stop the war. They wouldn't even know how to survive on their own. Maybe Tsunami was brave enough to tougher like a hero. Should be. But Tsunami and Gory and Starfight Clay thought all of these things might hurt them and wished that he could give them his own scales and claws and teeth for extra protection. Besides, there was no escape to the caves. The towns of beasts had made sure of that. Still, part of them could help wondering what it would be like to go home instead of waiting another 2 years. Back to the marshes, to the swamps, to a whole tribe of Melwings who looked like him and though like him, back to his parents, whoever they were. What if they could do it? What if the dragonets could escape, survive it, and save the world their own way?